Hello, 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 and welcome to today's episode of Chat with Chika. I remain your humble host, Chika the Costa. Today we'll be chatting with a very special lady. Her name is Dr. Elizabeth Leigh Jennings. She is special because I have, maybe trolled her page a little bit just to see what she does and how she changes lives. I met her. Well, I haven't met her physically, but I got to know her through my husband. See what she cash flow, who is online currently. And she coaches people. Oh my gosh, like if you know what, let me just let her come on, and she will tell us. We are going to get schooled today, but let me quickly say that she's a coach, she's a mother. She is a motivational speaker. She is an author. She is a mentor. She is an occupational therapist. She is just name it all. So I'm going to invite her because I see she's on already. Hi. I was playing that song because I know she likes Anthony Evans and Priscilla Shire. Hi, Dr. Jennings.
Hi, how's it going?
Pretty good. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me on today.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know that you love Priscilla. I don't know how to say her last name. Shira. I don't know how to.
Yes.
And Anthony Evans, her brother. And so I was playing that for you, just so you know.
Thank you. Yes, I do. They're very inspirational, and so that is what actually fulfills me quite a bit, is finding my own inspiration as I help other people. And so just learning to pour into myself as I pour into others is always so key.
Absolutely. So first time I got to hear about Priscilla was someone sent me a little clip of her message, and I was blown away. And then I saw her in the movie, not Courageous, War Room. And I was like, oh my God, and so I started following her and just to see, and I didn't even know Anthony Evans was her brother.
Yeah.
What a blessing,
Yes, the War Room has changed so many lives. Just that whole concept of, people and really like owning that, what prayer does for ourselves. And I've heard several people setting up their war rooms and closets. I've done it myself, or whatever area it might be, just to the whole point of value and what prayer does and the power of it. I'm definitely kind of agree and understand that concept. So
thank you. So can you please tell us a little bit about you, Dr. Elizabeth Leigh Jennings?
Sure. This is not always an easy thing to do. I wear many hats, but just to kind of keep it in chunks, the core of who I am a occupational therapist. That's something I've been doing at this point for 19 years. It's what I have my doctorate in, and I kind of really focus on working with pediatrics, working with children with special needs, their parents, really being an advocate in that area. But also most recently, I have launched into coaching. Probably in 2018 is when I started my coaching business. So I am a life coach, an executive coach, organizational development, leadership coach, and also someone who kind of creates program. So I also create a curriculum for different organizations also.
Yeah. You can keep talking because you have a lot of things
Okay. I'm like, pause, break, right? I also have a podcast. So I always know the importance of, let me just pause for a second, just in case Yeah, I'm also an author. I have written up to this point 4 books. One of them I wrote with my kids, actually. It's mindfulness strategies to help children who are dealing with test taking anxiety, teaching them mindfulness techniques. So I was able to like bring my kids along on the journey. As a single mom with 2 kids, I have at this point a 14-year-old son and an 11-year-old daughter who are my light, my motivation, and just my partners with things. When I launched Remember You Matter Coaching, which is my coaching business, it was really important for me not to do it by myself. But to bring them along. So they are actually like my business partners on the kids side of it, because along with coaching adults, I also coach kids and teens also. And so they really help kind of start off that part of the business, and they do lives on that side. They help me at different events. And so it's just been great to not have to like go in a bubble by myself, but I can include my children along that process also.
Right, right. So you mentioned the podcast. Where can we find the podcast if we want to go
Yeah,
listen to it?
so the name of my podcast is called Living Bold, and Living Bold stands for living beyond your limited dreams, right? And it's been launched for about a year now. So on SoundCloud, you can find it there. I'm actually looking, this is 1 year. October was like 1 year that it's been started. And so God is just really good, and he's always intentional. And so just probably last week, I had a conversation with someone who just called me out the blue, and they just inspired me. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to give you a platform. And so we are looking to kind of actually co-host that. And it's interesting because a lot of times when sometimes we pick co-hosts, there are people who parallel us. But this is totally different. Like, it's someone with a totally different story, a different vibe. But there's just something about how, especially in this season, when we are able to realize that our differences can actually draw us together instead of dividing us, and we take advantage of that, then we can really like make a bigger impact. And so I think based on this season, what's going on with the world, that this new person that I'm going to be having as a co-host is just going to really kind of show how that can happen in a really positive platform.
Wow, absolutely. I don't even know, like, because I know that during this year as a whole has been stressful for a lot of people. And I was looking through, your page, and I love those little like 1 to 3 minutes videos you put out. It's short, but it's like very impactful. I love them.
Thank
You know,
you.
I think you try to do it every day. I'm like, oh my gosh, how do
Thank
you keep up? And you always stay smiling. I love that. And anyways, I've had friends who have gone through a lot throughout this year, throughout their lives, and then COVID. And that's why I kind of started this, so I can give people a voice and inspire others. And so when you agreed to come on this, I was like, oh my gosh, I love it. She's a coach. She's a mentor. So we can find you, and hey, can we talk to you? How do we find you? Can you tell us how to go through these? And also, I had looked at I think the one you did on mentoring men, and I read the story behind, and I'm like, just wow. And we don't really know how what we do affects other people, or what somebody has done is affecting us. And so it's just a very tricky journey. And, because I don't know you one-on-one, but from my husband, and I had to look and research you. And I just felt like I'm getting schooled myself, because it was so much information and so much help.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you for bringing that up. And I'm going to go on a little story to just kind of share and kind of tie it all together.
Right.
So I think your first question was like, how did it all get started, right? And as I was just thinking, because I knew this was coming up, I don't usually use my voice haphazardous, right? Like, it always has a purpose, and being here has a purpose too. And so one of the things that I really wanted to share, because in this season, I am becoming much more, even more so, like open and authentic, just about our history and about my story.
Right.
And so a part of my journey, if you ask like why and where did it start, I would definitely kind of say the year that actually started that stood out to me was when I was 12 years old. And when I was 12 years old, I lost my brother. He actually died of AIDS. And that's something that I haven't shared with a lot of people. And actually, it was probably one of the most traumatic experiences of my life, because when you think about back then and at a time where, as African American, when you think about just the stereotypes that exist and what that looks like, and when you have, this image, and you have to kind of deal with that, it brings up feelings of shame, of the unknown, especially to be young and not understand the things that are happening around us, right? And not to really have anyone to talk to about, what you're experiencing. And so for me, I am blessed that during that season of you losing my brother, also my father, he's now deceased, but at that point he had walked away from our family also. So it was a lot of like repetitive things that had happened, a lot of loss during that period. And so it was just me and my mom and my youngest brother.
Right.
And I saw my mom like go to work where, she always worked, but she just had to focus on, she cleaned houses, and that's how she supplied financially for us. And so to have that happen, and to be at that state of just not knowing who to talk to, a lot of times when you think about the mental challenges that can present for you. So I am blessed that at 9 years old, I gave my life to Christ. And so at 12 years old, that became my saving grace, is to cry out to him at that point and to kind of express to him what I was feeling and what was going on, and having that as an outlet. But now when I think of these days, if we fast forward what that time did for me, and thinking about now and how so many people are dealing with loss, whether it be kids, whether it be adults, in trauma, and not really having an outlet if they don't have some type of foundation to stand on. And so remembering that, and in this season, I truly felt that God has like called me to be a light. And so even though, a lot has gone on and I've seen a lot in this season, I really felt like I heard God saying it's time to get to work, right? And so when I heard that since March, that's what I've been doing. There have been ideas about books. And so I am writing my next book, which is how to supersize your faith and minimize your doubt. And so I've been pouring into that. There is a course that I'm now launching, Rediscovering Yourself in This Season, which really talks about my personal journey of losing myself in 2015 through a marriage, divorce, losing my mom, losing my job. It was just another, like one of those trying periods where I found myself in this pit. And so what I did was exactly what I put in this course. It's like 6 steps of, how do you rediscover yourself, your purpose, and what God has called you to do, despite what life is kind of doing to you or doing around you. And so that season of 2015 reminds me of now, when I hear about everyone else losing so many things, right? I lost my job. I lost family members. It was on a different situation, and I just became like, it was just me and God. And so really learning how in that season, people can still overcome, people can still shine through those obstacles is really important for me. And so one of the other things that I was able to launch in this season is a mentorship program, and that's called Boys Matter to Men. Because whenever that situation happened with my dad not being there and I had a younger brother, I was the one who was always trying to reach out for people to support him, to people to find him, trying to find a mentor for him, but there was no one available. It was kind of like people would hear me, but no one responded. And so in this season, I really feel like I don't want to be that person. I want to allow, either for my son, for other people's son, I want to allow and create something where there are mentors and men who are amazing, who are willing to pour into our young men. And so I created a curriculum that is very safe, very secure. It is a holistic program. We're really trying to recreate our community village, where there's something for the moms in it. There's something for the mentors where they would get trained, but there's also, something for our boys too. So we're all working together to recreate a community village, that family that a lot of us either don't have or we've lost along the way.
Right. Oh my gosh. I have goosebumps coming out my skin. Because you said, creating and giving something back to the community, making something available to the community, because that's something that's hard. We always reach out and go out of our comfort zone, or out of town, or out for a seminar, out of state to find this thing. But you're making available now to our community. And I must add that like our community has a lot of military people in there, and we know how that is with military kids. It's sometimes it's not so pretty, and having that mostly where you are right now is really going to help. You
Yeah.
know, it's really going to help.
Yeah. And I'm excited like that. A lot of my mentors in the program, like I am blessed. Like they are some stellar men in our community. And that was another thing. Like I know for me being a single mom, there's a lot of talk about our men not being there and not showing up. And it was really important for me to kind of change that message within our community, within
Right.
society, that and show a different example, to show that, there are men who are willing to, sacrifice their time, their energy, their knowledge, who are willing to be men of character, who sets an example, not just for our young men, but also for the moms, so they can see, hey, this is someone, because the system that I've kind of, created with Boys Match Men is a little different. Like we're not looking for mentors to have like tons and be overwhelmed by their mentees. Like literally it's like one or two where there's really a personal connection between that family, where that mom now feels like I don't have to do it all. I have support. I have someone that I can kind of call on to be a
Right.
positive. And I'm seeing my mind is changing as a single mom in regards to the image of what men are, because of maybe things that have happened to me in the past where there's been certain men who have let me down in my life. I don't have to let that be the only thing that I see or talk
Right.
about. I can now like see something different and now speak differently about what I see also. And so just out of respect to our military veterans, they are the ones who have really stepped up. I really got connected with military veterans through another community program that I connected with. It's called Reboot Combat Recovery. And that was another like God ordained thing. It was another connection that came out of tragedy, a lot of tragedy that just turning good out of bad. But in 2018, when I launched my coaching business, it was Remember You Matter Coaching, Consulting, and Mentoring. If you guys are looking, that is the name of my business. And the website is www.rememberyoumattercoaching.com.
I'm going
But
to know that. Mm-hmm.
thank you. The exact month that I launched my business out of faith, literally, it was one of those where I took a coaching certification, literally changed my life. Like within 45 days, you had 6 months. I took it in 45 days and there was just light saying, this is what you have to do, right? You have to show people there's a different way to heal from some of the things that you've been going through your whole life. And now you need to share that to others. So I put everything into a spirit of excellence in creating my coaching business. Probably like 2 weeks into me creating that, I had a really good friend reach out to me and share. And it was actually on the day that I had another tragedy happen, where a really good friend of mine, who I used to work with when I worked with veterans at the Traumatic Brain Injury Clinic on Post. This is where I work with adults for about 3 years. And it's where I kind of launched into getting my doctorate working with PTSD and trauma. And so when I launched, I had a really good, she was a secretary, Marlena Morrison, and I found out on Facebook and I saw a post that she had tragically lost her life. She was hit in a car accident and related to just some situations that I'd rather not get into, but it really hit the fact of what trauma and what PTSD can lead to if it's left unkept, if that makes sense, and when you're struggling with those things. And so from there, someone reached out to me about a program called Remember You Matter, Reboot Combat Recovery. It's actually all around the United States. And if there's any veterans who are listening and you're, struggling with PTSD and trauma and looking for some type of outlet, I would suggest that you go on their website. There's a lot of local chapters. There wasn't one currently in our local area. There was one in Harker Heights, and I was able to connect with them, but there wasn't one in our Killeen area. So I connected with the founders of this program and talked to them, and they were able to share the curriculum, share how I could get started and bring that chapter to my local community. So I went to my church and connected with Destiny World Outreach, and they were able to support me in launching Reboot Combat Recovery through Destiny, but it's open to the community. And what it is, it's a free 12-week course for veterans and their spouses or caregivers who are dealing or if they have connections with a veteran who is struggling with post-traumatic stress disorder. And it teaches a faith-based approach to to heal from those symptoms of trauma. And I can just tell you, even from my perspective, like I was married for 17 years. And so my ex was a veteran. And so being able to go through that process and understand a little bit more about veterans and their experiences and the trauma and what that is like for them and how to heal using faith. I've had so many veterans whose lives have been just transformed because they were finally able to release a weight through this course in a way that they haven't had before. And so a lot of those veterans are actually the leaders within the mentorship program, because once they became like healed through some of those wounds, they were now ready to like serve. They were now, you know, they came alive and they're like, what can we do to make a difference now that we feel that life isn't over, right? That, you know, retiring or, you know, being a disabled, that if I'm having some mental things, that is there's still hope for me. And so just as I coach through some of these veterans and work with them, that's where the inspiration for, wait a minute, you know, I can connect you to this mentorship. I can create this and, you know, give you the program and empower you. And so those are the ones who are now the strength that are kind of running this particular mentorship program. So I just wanted to kind of share how, you know, things that we might just pass on or say, this is it from me, it makes a huge difference in the lives of others.
Right, right. It's really interesting you say that. I mean, it's a blessing that you're sharing this because, you know, I don't know a lot about the military, but I know that PTSD is no fun, is no joke. I've had friends who are scared to commit into something because they're scared because of what they saw in Iraq. You know what I mean? And then, you know, but then they're like, I rather just give it myself. And I'm like, you should be by yourself. And so you saying this is making me understand. And I found my little self advising somebody else. I'm not a trained coach, honestly, but I have a friend who is dating a guy in the military right now, and she was telling me the other day, and I was like, he's just scared to commit. And I found myself telling her things like, you don't know what's going through. He's in the military for over 20 years. His mind has seen a lot of things. You should be thankful he's still, you know, he still talks to you and smiles when he should smile. Like a lot of things and then she looked at me like, have you met him? I was like, no. He's like, that's the thing he says. I was like, no, I've talked to people here and there. I've heard that the conversations, and then I've volunteered at Feed My Sheep here in Temple. And so at TTLC, and I've seen that these guys that once served a great country, maybe out on the street, or they just don't have any, it's just
Yeah.
too much. And then one thing that I think I enjoy when we go out to volunteer at these places is that we get a minute to talk to them, or until COVID, to relate with them, to just kind of like know where their heart is. And I kid you not, every time they smile, it just feels like I won a lottery. It's just like, it just feels so relieving. Like, and they always say thank you. I'm like, no, you thank you. Because, you could share whatever. And they tell me all this thing. Oh my God, when I was there, oh my God, I saw that thing go off. It hit my body. And these things, and for me, I have never been to these places, right? But I can get the image in my head.
Yeah.
How much more for you who lived through all these things?
Exactly.
And so my friend was telling me, this is what my boyfriend says. I'm like, just give him time, or walk with him, or be, I don't know where he's at. I cannot tell him what to do, but he can maybe find a coaching, thing like this to help him through it. But don't rush him. Give him time. I don't know how he works there, but so I feel really, like I said, this is for people, but it's for me too, because I'm learning too. And honestly, from looking at myself from 5 years ago to now, I think I have changed with the way I think about things, or the way I understand things. And maybe I've evolved, I don't know. Because when I relate to people and I put myself out there, and I'm open to learn, I'm open to just see what's going on, put myself, and I was saying this the other day, it's very crazy, I'm sorry, but I dried some basils and rosemary right from my little garden. I dried it out just for my personal use, and I'm like, oh my God, it's so small. And then I said, now I see why this is expensive in the store.
Yeah.
Because when it's a bunch of leaves, it's like it's a lot, and when it's dried, it's like disappears.
Yes.
And so when you do things, you understand, and you appreciate the process. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yes, it does. And it also lets us know the value of things, right? And I think you asked before about in this season when there's a lot of loss and a lot of change. It's one thing when we can take for granted when everything is always there. And so, sad enough, sometimes it just takes a lot of loss for us to realize the value of life, right? The value of time, the value of what we have. And hopefully, if you ask like what could be helpful, it's being able to cultivate an attitude of gratitude in this season, to still be here, to still be healthy, to still be able to, hug your kids. If you have a job, if you just have breath in your body, right? It's a blessing. And so a lot of times we focus on the external things and things that, we might be losing in regards to money and just being able to travel, and all those things are good. But in the midst of things, right? Remember what really matters, right? And that's where just the whole theme of Remember You Matter, my coaching concept kind of came from when my mom was alive, who was definitely my greatest like role model. And I realized that more so now that she's gone than when she was there. I always like valued her, but more so now. She died of stage 4 stomach cancer in 2015. But I just throughout, she'd always like check in on me because she lived in Georgia and I lived in Texas for probably about a 10-year period. But she always made sure to remember me the things that were important. Like my mom would always send me cards, and she would actually still write like handwritten letters to me. And, I still have those that I've kept. And so now that she's not here, I can pull out that handwritten letter. And I just think now how when I encourage some of my clients to explore like writing letters, and they're like, what? Like, who used to do that? And I bring up the story of why it's so valuable, because you just never know when someone is gone. A lot of the social media is fine, but we don't keep that, right? It's just something about being able to have their words in their heart being communicated or saved in a way. So really just getting back to the basic, as a coach, as an occupational therapist, that is the core of who I am. A lot of things that I do, it focus on just getting back to the basics and fundamental of things. And so when people ask me, like, how do you still have energy to kind of keep going or keep, focusing? I think it's that key where life has always been about staying grounded and keeping my focus on the basics of what's really important, right? I am not a materialistic type person. I would give what I can to help others. I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty to help build, help, whatever I need to do. And so as long as I stay humble in that aspect, then no matter what life brings at me, I always know, there's always something to be grateful for. And I'm always going to push forward with that gratitude.
Amen. Ooh, you just spoke to my soul. Well, you have shared your story. You have shared what led you to helping people, and I love that it's you actually have real life stories. You are the story, and that's why you're giving it us out. You're sharing your beautiful self with the world. I really love that. Do you have any advice for people who are struggling, still struggling, those who just don't know how to handle whatever life is throwing at them right now?
Yeah. The first thing I would say is just going back to our mindset, right? And starting with that gratitude part. If we're dealing with, and I've dealt with this before, I've dealt with depression, I've dealt with anxiety, and those are a lot of feelings that we're feeling now, the unknowns of what's going to happen. And when I was in my head trying to figure that out, like it just led to more anxiety, more stress, more worries, right? So I really had to get out of my head and just get to the basic of what am I grateful for? And not just like saying that, but starting to journal that. That was very healing, because not only are you able to journal about gratitude, you're also able to be truth and honest about your fears. The things that instead of letting it be in your head, write it out, put it somewhere where it's out of your head. And then from there, from a coaching standpoint, you're able to look at this and say, now, how am I going to deal with this? Like, what are some solutions that I can come up with? If I don't know the solutions, what are some resources that I can like reach out to and ask someone or connect to those? And so that would be probably my biggest advice also, is to learn to reach out. There's a lot of organizations and services that people don't don't know about that are kind of rising up in this season. But if we never search for it, then we never find. And so I've learned that when I don't have the finances, when I was going through that pit of unemployment and just some other things that I was dealing with, I had to learn to research. I had to learn to be proactive for myself and not wait for the world to change, not wait for someone to give me something, but I had to start looking for those answers and those doors. And when I was able to write it out, then I was able to come up with solutions. And if I didn't know it, then I was willing to get mentors or other people to help me. And that was different because prior to it, I was always used to either everyone coming to me for like being that leader and seeking those answers. So sometimes it takes us swallowing our pride to like humble ourselves and get the help that we need in the season. And so that would probably be advice number 2 is being willing to ask for help or seek out resources because you'll be surprised who can connect you if you just ask or share what you're needing. And that might be the door that you're needing to open that light or lead you in that right direction. Right. And the other part is in regards to our mental health, which is so important. So many times we try to act like we're not having any problems. We try to hide or mask if we're dealing with depression or anxiety or if we're feeling overwhelmed. And so really being able to, and this concept of mindfulness stands out for me every day, realizing that the more I try to fake or put on a fake image of having it all figured out, then it was just killing me inside because it wasn't truly what was congruent, right? I had to be okay with understanding there's some days where I just don't know, right? There's some days where I'm struggling. There's some days where I am dealing with pain and hurt, and to be okay with like recognizing that, but then don't sit there too long. Like looking at, what can I do or who can I turn to? And if I can't turn to a person, have I established my spiritual well-being and my spiritual life, and have I built my faith or whatever that is that I'm connected to really could keep me grounded and to be able to take some of this uncertainty and like put it in that area. And so the more we're able to empower ourselves with what we have and the resources that are available, as small as it may seem, right? When we think about that, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, right? And when I think about if you can have hope the size of a mustard seed, like then it expands because we plant it in the ground and then we water it with our words. We start declaring, we start washing our face and dressing ourselves up and just going into the world and seeing new opportunities. There are some times when life comes at us and it is necessary to have those detours to put us on a different path. We may be going a certain way for 2 decades or something like that, right? And then something's taken away from us. If we sit there sulking or crying over that thing that we lost, then we will not go any further. But sometimes when we look and we're able to say, wait a minute, let me look this other direction. Let me see if there's some other passions or dreams or desires that I've had in my heart. And let me start asking about how to pursue those. That might have been the next faith or door that we were meant to go through. And so I think that would be another thing, is like not always seeing the negative in a situation, but seeing what door might be now open that I can kind of walk through and be on another path that is totally like amazing and actually where I was meant to be in this season also.
Well, thank you so much. Real quick, may I please ask you for, I know you said your website and where we can find you so I can like put it when I post the video.
Yeah, so www.rememberyoumattercoaching.com and my Facebook page and Instagram, you will also find me on Remember You Matter Coaching.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time. Yeah. Thank you for coming on. I really feel honored, and I really feel like I've been blessed listening to you again.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Whew. Thank you, guys. Thank you, my outbox versus. Thank you, NC. I don't want to mess up your name, but thank you for coming on. Thank you, Stewardship Cash Flow. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Dr. Elizabeth Leigh Jennings. I have been schooled again. I have been blessed listening to you, because it's the things that we don't even know we go through, and then when someone who who is going through this with people explains it out. It opens your eyes. It all goes back to yourself and how you treat others. I love you guys. Thank you for coming. Thank you for watching. And I'll see you next time.